now. Do you guys still whisper when I'm not here, or am I the only one who does it?
I don't know. I may just, I can't remember. Maybe.
Maybe? Okay, I'll take a maybe. Welcome, everyone, to CASAA Live. Alex and I are here today to talk about the stuff and the things. I see some familiar faces in chat. Ronnie, Adrian, Peggy, Mark, Addie, Breeze Tones. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. It is a dreary, gray, rainy Saturday here in Western New York. I don't know how Alex is doing up north, but
Same.
Yeah. Well, I hope some of you out there have some sunshine, because we certainly don't here. It's just gross, along with a whole lot of gross legislation that we're going to be talking about. So that's pretty on brand for the day.
Yeah.
A few other folks in chat: Damien, Green Eyed Lady, the Rising Phoenix Vapory. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for tuning in today, and Replay Crew. Thank you for tuning in as well. This is my first stream back of the year. I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. I don't know how to do this show, so I'm gonna lean on Alex a lot today. I'm just gonna hop in his backpack and let him carry me through this stream, because this year has been wild for me. There was like 2 other streams that we did that I was supposed to be here for and was not, because life and
because you work outside, and
just frozen hell tundra. But yeah, I'm here today, so I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to talk about all the things and the stuff. So where do you want to get started today, man?
Well, I guess I'll tell everybody about the broccoli we're going to force feed you for the next, I don't know, 30, 45 minutes.
Yes.
So yeah, if you wanted your broccoli without cheddar on top, here it comes. The point that we wanted to get into with this is, obviously this is just one big legislative rundown. What we've seen so far, this is by no means an exhaustive list. I would assume there are probably a few more bills out there, maybe more than a few, that I haven't captured in tracking or heard about. But if you've been paying attention at all, maybe for the last 6 months or a couple of years, then you've probably heard of something known as a PMTA Registry Bill. And we have, I had written this down in my notes somewhere. So there's 3 states that already have these bills enacted: Alabama, Nebraska, and I forget the third. And we were talking about it in chat the other day. And I think I need to go back and look that up because it's important. But I don't know. Let's see, it's Oklahoma, Alabama, and Louisiana. Those are the 3 states that have enacted these PMTA registry bills. I don't have any data in terms of how well these are being enforced. But you can probably imagine, once your state takes over doing FDA's job, it's a little bit easier for states to do this because they've got the human power. But I guess it all sort of depends on how invested they are in enforcing these laws. It's like any other ban, right? The state prohibits the sale of products that have not been authorized or granted some sort of provisional authorization through FDA. And, they go in and they bust up shops and issue fines and tell people to take all these things off their shelf. And the next prevent and fill the vacuum.
We had a full robot Alex for that one. I know. I know. I'm so sorry. I just want to make sure everybody heard you.
Yeah. So my internet is fine. It's just for some reason I get this little thing up here on the thing. So I'm not hardwired. Anyway, I don't know what everybody missed out of that, but the point is these bills are horrible.
Like the last like 5 seconds of what you said.
Yeah, the bills are bad. They are being promoted by tobacco companies. I think the last time we were on here, I was saying it was just one out of the 2 that you think it is. It's both of them in different states. One of them, I think they're both invested in this because they both have products that have been authorized. And so this is one of the ways that I tell myself, I try the things I tell myself so I can get out of bed in the morning and not be just a lump of sad is it's just business, which is not really, that doesn't make me feel all happy and fuzzy, but it's, on one hand, yeah, we can assign all kinds of motivation to what they're doing, but this is just business side of it. Doesn't really make it any less, I guess, corrupt. Um, the effect of this is, well, I mean, on paper, it would be to corner the market for these companies that have
Sure.
products authorized. And for them, it's kind of, if we're really thinking about this, it's kind of hard to begrudge them for doing this because they've spent the millions of dollars to go through
Sure.
PMTA. If they go to TPSAC for a modified risk order, they're spending millions more. I mean, it's almost the same song and dance. It's just at TPSAC they have a full-blown presentation. There are teams of people running slide decks and presenting and answering questions to FDA. It's a whole event, and there's a lot of investment that goes into that. So again, can't really begrudge any company for trying to make back their investment on getting FDA authorization. But at the end of the day, we all know, and we all believe, the courts know, the courts have stated as much, the process is broken. FDA is not implementing PMTA in a way that is appropriate for the protection of public health. FDA's rollout of enforcement has been arbitrary and capricious, which I think some would argue, the reality is FDA is using its enforcement discretion to go after manufacturers that are selling products sort of defiantly. I'm not here to list a bunch of companies. Everybody can fill in their own blanks. But these are products that are brightly colored, which is not necessarily kid appealing. But they may be using things like cartoons to promote their products. Again, define cartoon for me. What's the difference between a cartoon and an illustration? In the eyes of the legislature, it may not be any different. So, when we get into marketing and branding and stuff like that, those conversations become very complicated. And that's not something that state legislatures want to deal with, nor does the FDA. And so they're just sort of going after products that, according to surveys and research and whatnot, are being used by a lot of kids. Which, look, I don't know how many of us remember being teenagers, but in the 80s and early 90s, before marijuana was legal, it wasn't hard to get a hold of. If I wanted to get alcohol, I just needed to know somebody with an older brother. Nothing has changed. Arguably, it's all become more accessible thanks to the internet and social media and other ways of, doing those transactions. So, while on paper, this looks like tobacco companies acting responsible in the eyes of the regulator by, taking on some of this responsibility for enforcement, the actual outcome is these products are being sold by people who haven't cared about your drug policy or tobacco policy or alcohol policy for generations. And that infrastructure exists. And I will, one of the bills on this growing list here is from Indiana. We do have a call to action. If you're in Indiana, go to our website and go to click on Get Involved. And from the drop down, see the state and local thing, click on state and local. And then we've got a big clicky map, and you can click on the state of Indiana, scroll down, and you'll find this call to action. Or if you're already a member, check your email. I'm pretty sure I sent an email out. So there was a hearing this week on SB 227, which is a PMTA registry bill. And one of the first witnesses testifying in favor of this bill, towards the end of his remarks, referenced California and said, these products are being sold. I think the cartels are involved, and they just busted up some place where they were being sold, and they found fentanyl and all this other stuff. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself while I'm watching the recording of this hearing, that's exactly what this bill is setting up the state of Indiana or any other state for. You're going to push all of this stuff onto an underground market the same people who are selling counterfeit pills and, illicit THC products and so on and so forth, they're just going to add this to their menu. I mean, they have already added it to their menu.
Yeah, it's been on the menu.
And I don't think, I'm not here to drum up fear about, and they're going to put fentanyl in your nicotine vapes, because I don't think that's actually happening. I don't think we've seen any credible evidence about that. We've seen statements made by local sheriff's departments, but as we should all come to suspect, that is not the most credible source. They have their own agenda, and it does involve funding. And ideology, I'm sure. It's still shocking to me to hear people talk about, what we have come to refer to as a drug poisoning crisis, as being dismissive of people with substance use disorder, and basically carrying this attitude of, well, they deserve it. They're messing around with something that's illegal. And that is probably one of the least, it is anti-compassionate and not a very humane way to approach this issue.
Yeah, my eyes glaze over every time I get to an article where they ask for police officers or law enforcement's opinions on anything regarding drug policy or health policy. I just dismiss it. Like,
it only matters
their
once
area
they're
of
retired.
expertise. They shouldn't even be quoted. But carry on.
Yeah. It's always former law enforcement that seem to have an enlightened view of the drug war, and we appreciate them speaking out as much as they can.
Absolutely.
We obviously had Leap on last year.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And so anyway, Indiana, these are just the what I heard in that testimony was, it's just one of those things where you kind of want to just, grab the guy and say, hey, look, are you listening to the words coming out of your mouth? Like, do you understand you're describing the hellscape that you're about to unleash on your state if you adopt this law? Indiana is one of them, and I'll just kind of fill everybody in here on what we've got up as far as the PMTA Registry Bills. Virginia SB 550, that had I think it was supposed to have a hearing, or it did have a hearing. We sent an alert out about that for Virginia. Florida is probably the one that most people have seen. It was one of the earliest ones this year that we saw. That's two bills. It's the House bill is 1007 and the Senate bill is 1006. At the beginning of the year, this was being promoted, I think, aggressively by Ashley Moody, the Attorney General in Florida. And from what I understood, the bill sponsors actually didn't even know, which is hard to imagine because they deal with lobbyists all the time, did not know that this was being pushed by a tobacco company. And so if you're in Florida, definitely go check out our call to action, take action. We need messages, phone calls. There are phone numbers up there. Making phone calls it's a little bit, you might be nervous, but that's okay. That means you're human. And just call up, tell your story, tell them you're opposed to these bills, and say thank you. It can be a nice, doesn't even have to be 3 minutes. If you practice in the mirror, you can get this down to a minute. And just tell them that you're opposed to this. Phone calls matter a whole lot. And I don't have a good way to automate that. These platforms have tried, but really it depends on residents of Florida calling into the 3 phone numbers that we have on our website. It's a little bit more, but we've got the Attorney General's office and then 2 of the bill's sponsors listed. Yeah. So definitely take action there.
And a thing I like to remind folks about calling, because I know that it seems really intimidating for a lot of people to make those phone calls. Chances are you're either going to talk to a recording, like an answering machine, or you're going to talk to a secretary who's just going to say, okay, all right, I'll pass that along.
Yeah,
you're not gonna speak to Ashley Moody. You're not gonna, you know what I mean? I've never once called and gotten Chuck Schumer. That's never happened to me. So, or Kristen Gillibrand, or my rep. So,
even if you show up in person, you're going to talk to staff.
You're going to talk to staff, and they're not going to say anything to you one way or another outside of taking, writing down what you have to say or passing the message along. It's really not nearly as intimidating as you might make it out to be in your head. I know for a lot of people, they've spoken to me like, Logan, I don't want to call my governor, But yeah, it's you're either going to talk to an answering machine or just a staff who's just there to hear what you have to say and, jot it down and pass it along. So don't be afraid to make those phone calls. They matter.
Now that we've invoked Chuck Schumer, I feel
Oh
like
God, I'm so sorry.
do a little bit about his crusade against Zyn that he went on. I guess it was this past week.
It's honestly been kind of entertaining to watch the backlash, though. I have to admit.
I'm sure it has been. I'm not paying much attention to Twitter these days, so
it's bipartisan backlash, which is what I enjoy the most.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, of all the things to decide to pick a fight with, a product that is arguably less risky than using nicotine replacement therapies, that's pretty dumb. So anyway, and I like Zyn. I use their cinnamon 6 milligram on occasion.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
Anyway, I will continue with the PMTA registry stuff before we get back to what we have active calls to action for. Just going down my list, actually, not really in any particular order. South Carolina, thanks for sharing this. Thanks for sharing, Allie, and thanks for sharing, Logan.
Sure.
South Carolina, it's a Senate Bill 994. This was introduced just a couple days ago, referred to the Committee on Medical Affairs. We will be getting a call to action up for this soon. So if you're in South Carolina, make sure to check your emails. South Dakota, SB 116. This was introduced on the 22nd, referred to Senate Health and Human Services. The next meeting was on the 24th, and it wasn't on the agenda, so we're keeping an eye on that. Nebraska, LB 1296. Let's see. This has a hearing in General Affairs on February 5th, so we'll be getting something out about that next week. That is at 1:30 in room 1510. I don't know if that's subject to change, but we'll update that as we get information. So we got South Carolina, South Dakota, Nebraska. Let's see. New York has a PMTA registry bill, which is it. So the interesting thing about this is it was introduced last year, reintroduced or carried over this year and referred to health. But New York already bans everything with the exception of tobacco flavors that have not received PMTA authorization. So
listen, we just want to make these illegal products more illegal, Alex.
Yeah. So I don't know, maybe that's why it sat around on a desk for a year and nothing happened with it. I don't want to, I'm not going to be cocky about this, but it is somewhat duplicative, that, we already have a ban in New York, and it's not like, the people who are already selling flavored vapes under the counter, it's not like they're going to comply with any kind of registry.
Have you heard about the new registry bill? We better stop what we're doing.
We're doomed now. But from the state's perspective, it can be another set of penalties.
Sure.
Maybe, I'm not sure.
And it feels like one of those we got to get it on the books kind of things for New York.
It could be, and I mean, this is the thing, right? And to be blunt, I know one of these companies has someone in Albany who is, I have heard referred to as one of the most powerful lobbyists in the state of New York. So it's it is what it is. I'm not surprised. It is a little weird to sort of double down on a failing policy, but here we are. Also, back to the nicotine pouches. We have actually seen bans on nicotine introduced in New York. I don't know, for like the last 4 or 5 years, something like that.
Yeah.
I know it's Linda Rosenthal, I think.
Yeah, this was something I remember discussing like with folks on my channel before I ever even joined CASAA.
Yeah.
So this is not a new topic in New York by any means.
Yeah, and it's been the same thing. And this is, it's the same thing that happened with vaping, right? Rinse, repeat. But with nicotine pouches and oral tobacco, those products have never been popular with young people. I mean, we're talking like below 5% always. It's just never been a very popular product. And I'm sure everybody can speculate as to why that is, but I mean, it's kind of hard to show off your rebellion when you're using the most discreet tobacco product on the market.
If I can find it later at some point, I will share the post out on the social media formerly known as Twitter. I don't remember who posted it, but it was something along the lines of like Schumer forgot to, create a youth use epidemic before trying to drum up support around these products.
Yeah.
So I thought it was the backlash behind this has just been extremely comical. And I think really speaks volumes too. There's a lot of folks out there that use these products. In particular, we're seeing a lot of politicians who use these products. I mean, look, if I was sitting through some of these like legislative hearings and things like that, I'd have a pouch in 100%. Absolutely.
For sure.
So
I've used them. The funny thing, I know that Swedish Match ran a campaign in support of General Snus years ago. Something like it was, first of all, well, one of them was show us your snoozy smile, which is not the best, but it was this whole campaign about how you can use these products anywhere. There is no spitting involved. There's no smoke, obviously. It's a very discreet product. I've used it in places where you're not even supposed to possess tobacco products, FDA. So,
yeah.
But nobody's out there, with gloves on, running their finger through your mouth.
Sure.
That's
And
impractical.
there are tins too that have that like kind of upper compartment too,
Yeah.
which is kind of nice because that way you're not like trying to look for a trash bin or somewhere to throw it.
I'm going to lay down the gauntlet here. Any nicotine pouch company who cares about their consumers will have
that little upper container, so you can take your
lid.
pouch right out and throw it in there, and either save it for later or just a place to keep it so you're not throwing your pouches out on the ground when they're done or what have you.
Later. Don't save it for later. That's kind of gross.
Look, I don't know. It's once you buy the thing, it's up to you what you do with it. But
True. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you how to snooze or use a nicotine pouch.
Yeah,
but
sure. Yeah, I use, in just my personal experience, I use a brand of nicotine pouches. I use them regularly as a landscaper. I go all over the place. Sometimes I'm doing work at places where there's no vaping, no smoking, no yada yada yada, and they're a godsend for me, because then whether I'm there for a few hours, I can get through that time. Obviously, I still personally want to go enjoy a nice vape when I'm done, but they work for me in those pinch situations, or if we're going to the movies or something like that, I want to throw a pouch in while I'm at the movies or whatever. They're great just for, moments like that for me anyways. So
yeah, for sure. So and I don't know how seriously people are going to take things like Chuck Schumer's little outburst on Sunday, in terms of lending any credibility to claims that this is some sort of, this is the next nicotine crisis or whatever he is all about. Because again, it's just not showing up in the data. Kids aren't using these products. They don't like them. They don't care. This is something that needs to be widely available. And it needs to be delicious too. So,
agreed.
So, moving right along, let's see, we got Virginia has another. So there's companion bills in Virginia, HB 1069. We don't have anything up for this because it wasn't moving. The pressure was on SB 550. We do have a call to action up for that. I guess maybe we should drop all of these links in the notes or when we.
So periodically throughout the show right now, just because we have so many, I'm just sharing our state locator page.
Okay.
So there's a lot of calls to action out right now. And for anybody ever curious, you don't just have to do it right now during the stream, but if you're ever curious if there's something up for your state going on, that link is going to take you to our state locator page, and you can just go right to your state and find out if we have a call to action that's currently going on for you. That's the link that I'm going to share during our stream. And then at the end, I was going to have you just kind of, again, run through the list of states that you've shared today. And then from there, folks, if you're in one of those states, please go do the call to action. But yeah, I'm just sharing our overall state locator page.
And I just dropped, for your benefit and ease of use here, I just dropped a link to my Google Doc there. I have all this listed on, and all the links to the CASAA calls to action are there if you want to get more granular for folks. So
Okay.
there's that. Let's see. We got South Dakota, Nebraska. Let's see, New York, Vermont. Vermont has two bills. One is a flavor ban, but the PMTA Registry Bill is HB 729. I haven't checked that in the past couple of days. I don't know where that is, but the one that is the most concerning is the flavor ban. This is carried over from last session. Vermont's been trying to ban flavors, I think, for a couple of sessions now. And what's been going on is they're having hearings, but they're sort of by invitation only at this point. I don't know that they've opened things up for a public hearing. I think it's, sorry, I'm going to sneeze. I don't think it's.
Do you feel better?
I do. I feel amazing. Sneezes are great.
Sneezes are great. You ever sneeze 20 times in a row?
Sneezes are free drugs.
It's happened to me once.
I've had like mild allergy attacks in the past, which is not pleasant, but
no,
just the 1 or 2 or 3 off sneeze fit. I
sure
love it.
It is. It's free drugs.
S18 is the flavor ban. We do have a call to action up for this. As I was saying, they are doing hearings, but they're sort of one-sided. They're by invitation only. I think there was somebody from NATO, that's the National Association of Tobacco Outlets, is the only person I sort of saw on the news who had recently testified against the bill. But again, flavor bans and PMTA registry bills, they're basically one and the same. And the outcomes are predictable. There's that. If you're one of the few people in Vermont we have in our membership, please send a message opposing S18. Let's see what else. We got some more in here. Washington State. That's another one. PMTA registry. We started our call to action on that a couple weeks ago, I think. That did have a hearing in Labor and Commerce. I think I watched a little bit of that. And I don't have any updates as to the status. Some good testimony though. So that's SB 6118. If you're in Washington State, definitely send your messages. So that is all of the PMTA registry bills so far. There are many more we expect to see. I think most state legislatures are in session. I don't know how long it kind of takes them to fire up all the paperwork and this and that and rules and start moving forward. But the other thing about this, and I think it's fair to say that the companies promoting these PMTA registry bills waited until 2024 and rather than 2023, because this is kind of the short side of the session. Most states are only in session for 3 or 4 months. You've got like half a dozen that are like year-round stuff. New Jersey, I don't think New Jersey's ever seen a bill it didn't like. Things move really quickly in the even-numbered years, and it's a lot harder to fight things like this. And certainly, with the lobbying power that these companies have and being able to sell it as kind of a common sense sort of thing, I think a lot of lawmakers are going to look past the negative outcomes and just say, yeah, this is what we should be doing. So they need to hear from you. For me, I have this weird battle of like, trying to, I don't know, fighting back against something that feels so common sense is difficult for me. But one of the ways I look at this is sort of how states handled cannabis legalization. The federal government, it's been on Schedule 1, right?
Yeah.
Cannabis was Schedule
1. Yeah.
So, the penalties are severe for considering what the drug is, but states stood their ground and have done their own legalization process as things went on, and a lot of this was, built on making that use case for cannabis, the medical, the health benefits, the medical benefits, and so on. And it's another, it's one of those things that we've all been, focused on, I think, for the past few years is, anytime you've heard anybody say, they're using nicotine for ADHD or IBS or, people with schizophrenia are using it to manage their symptoms. This is all about,
family history of
Parkinson's, et cetera. And one of the reasons I had heard why nootropics or why Zyn was so popular or nicotine pouches are so popular with a lot of people is that they're using it as a nootropic. So there are legitimate use cases for nicotine that don't involve just strapping people to a pack of cigarettes for the rest of their lives. And certainly as we experience nicotine, we consume it in safer ways, we can manage the dosage a lot easier than if we're stuck with a disposable or pod system that's only offered in 1 or 2 nicotine strengths, or if we're stuck with cigarettes. We have those options, and if FDA is not authorizing a range of products that come in a range of nicotine strengths, then they are, as predicted, just handing the industry over to incumbent tobacco companies, and that's not appropriate for the protection of public health.
Sure. This all falls, right into the, I know I harp on the phrase tools in the toolbox, but that's what we need. The more tools in the toolbox, the better for everybody.
Yeah. So that's the PMTA registry rundown, and then we'll get to the rest here. The next up on the things that we have calls to action up for, Rhode Island is looking at an 80% wholesale tax on vapor products. This is in a larger budget appropriations or budget bill. This is H7225. And when we talk about budget bills, these are must-pass bills. So this bill will likely pass at some point, but in the process, the legislature has to, root out stuff that is not going to work. And this 80% wholesale tax should be branded as not going to work. Also in this bill is those in Rhode Island may know that the Rhode Island Department of Health banned flavored products several years ago, but that's just a health department regulation. This bill would codify that into state law. And so we want to prevent that as well. So it's everything in Article 6, Section 16 needs to go. Actually, maybe everything in Article 6. I might have to update our call to action again. So anyway, right now,
throw Article 6 out the window.
Just scrap the whole thing. But at the moment, in terms of what you're facing, as far as what is going to restrict your access, that 80% wholesale tax is something that people are going to feel with anything that's left on the market. But all of it should be scrapped. We already talked about Washington, Michigan. This is the heavy hitter. This is the suite of bills.
There's a lot. There's a lot going on in Michigan right now.
Yeah, and I need some updates. I don't know if Mark is in here, but I need some updates as to where
Mark was. I don't know if Mark is still here. He was at the top of the hour.
We're usually on in his shop when we're on. So, but
Mark.
I should probably just send you an email and get the details on where this is and what's going on. I have 4 bills on my list here. I think there's 3 of them that we're really paying attention to that are the meat and bones. It still sucks here. Sorry, man.
We love you, Mark. Sorry, brother.
Torch going though.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean it sucks balls out there, but Mark is still helping people quit smoking. So there's your real public health hero. We do have an active call to action.
True public health heroes right there.
So we do have an active call to action up for Michigan. The 3 bills that that we're targeting are SB 647, which would repeal state preemption, and we'll talk about that before we conclude here. 640, which is tax act a % wholesale tax on nicotine vapor products. It would raise the tax on other tobacco products, which in Michigan includes nicotine pouches and smokeless. It would raise that tax from 32% to 57%. Not quite 100% tax hike, but pretty damn close. And it would raise the tax on cigarettes from $2 to $3.50 a pack, which has gone over like gangbusters around the country. And then SB 649 is a flavor ban. The other one here I have on the list that I didn't really get into, and what we're asking lawmakers about, is HB 5198. Prohibits descriptors and certain marketing of flavored nicotine products. It's not a ban, but it would prohibit retailers from marketing any products with flavors other than tobacco. So I imagine that's a little bit of like, Quebec, where like cigarettes are behind that opaque shield. There's no, there's no marketing materials around the store saying buy this, pina colada flavor or whatever.
Yeah, you kind of just have to guess if there's a case behind the counter with a sliding door that's where the cigarettes are.
I imagine, or probably a menu might, because it's not something that's out on display. It's something you have to ask for. I'm not sure how people would work around something like that, but
yeah, I
I
don't
have
have
it in
any
here
experience with that situation, so
yeah. So I'd have it in here, sort of an honorable mention. And so that's what's going on in Michigan. And the recent update is it still sucks. Met with the bill sponsors and committee members in a few days. Okay, cool. So I'll hit you up at some point next week and see what's going on. So now these are things that are sort of pending in my notes. I still need probably some more information as to how things are going. But Colorado is looking at a bill that I originally thought of this as a flavor ban, but it might turn out to be, depending on where in Colorado you live. And we're back to preemption again. SB 22 would allow Board of County Commissioners to adopt regulations that exceed the state rules. This would be adopt an ordinance or resolution to regulate the distribution of cigarettes, tobacco products, or nicotine products, and prohibit the distribution or sale of cigarettes, tobacco products, or nicotine products, including flavored cigarettes, flavored tobacco products, or flavored nicotine products. Blah, blah, blah. This was assigned to the Committee on Local Government and Housing. And as of January 23rd, there was no hearing scheduled. So I'll check back with that and see where it's at. So that's another preemption thing we'll talk about. Let's see, there's something goofy in Illinois. New Jersey's got a couple of bills. SB 1947 prohibits the sale of flavored cigarettes, menthol, and flavored non-premium cigars, and oral nicotine pouches. So New Jersey's hopping on that fake epidemic or fake panic, manufactured panic bandwagon with nicotine pouches. And I don't have anything up for that, but it is on my list here, SB 1947. I got another pharmacy ban. People don't get too excited about those, but that's what New Jersey is doing. I'm kind of surprised New Jersey hasn't banned sales of tobacco products in pharmacies already. We did Virginia. HB 790 in Virginia would be a 6 cent, point whatever, call it round up, it's 7 cents, $0.066 on closed system products, a 10% wholesale tax on open system liquid. There are licensing requirements for manufacturers, distributors, and retailers, and creates a new safety requirements related to the advertising, marketing, and labeling of nicotine liquid. I don't know that that's got a lot of legs, but just to be aware, there is a tax bill in Virginia. And so right down here at the very bottom of the list, I do take pleasure in reporting that we had a win in Ohio. The Senate voted to override Governor DeWine's veto of a preemption provision in the state's budget bill, which was HB 33.
Well done, Ohio.
Yeah, excellent work. Thank you.
Pat yourselves on the back, Ohio. Well done.
And so what this means is, and I think the veto override takes effect in the spring. I don't know that this has an immediate effect. So this is not that's not the best news for retailers, but for folks in Columbus and any municipality in Ohio where flavor bans have been implemented, those are about to go away. If you can hold out until this takes effect, you should be able to return to selling to the people who really need these products. So that, I think, that setup there takes us into a conversation about preemption and why we are supporting undoing. We're supporting preemption, supporting
the undoing of
like
ridiculous patchworks of legislation within a state.
So
this was something I just wanted. I wanted Alex to take a minute here, us to have a conversation about preemption, because I think it's a topic that easily confuses a lot of advocates and stuff online when I see this topic kind of get thrown around. And so I just wanted, to take a moment to kind of discuss why we're in favor of this, even though this seems kind of on paper like a lot of times it's like, oh, more bigger government. Don't we want local small governments to have the choice, to have the ability to do what they want to do for their constituents? So why is this like, oh, big government preemption? Why is this a good thing in this case? Why is this something that we support?
So one of the things that we've seen over the years of doing this is essentially the anti-tobacco folks have literally adopted the big tobacco playbook. One of the things that they learned in their fight in the 70s, 80s, and 90s was they had a hard time getting the entire country to do anything because tobacco companies were so well entrenched in state houses that they were, just being fought, up and down. I'm not quite sure how serious tobacco companies were lobbying at the local level, but essentially one way to look at this, whether or not it's accurate, it is, they've adopted that strategy within states. And so that's, Massachusetts and California were great examples of this. Even let's go all the way back to 2009 when New Jersey adopted, folded in vaping with smoking for the purposes of banning it in indoor public spaces and outdoor public spaces. That happened at a, county by county level. And so it's very difficult for us and even the tobacco companies to stay on top of stuff like that. And what happens is the antis will pass this legislation at the local level. And then once they have a certain percentage of the state's population living under these policies, they go to the state and say, look, we've got most of the state living under this already. Just make it statewide. Yep. And so what we're advocating for is that the state laws, and in most of the states, they don't allow, they either don't allow or they haven't really had this issue pop up. But in a lot of states, there's already preemption. Where there isn't preemption, you see this municipality by municipality or county by county march to implement policies. They create a patchwork of regulation, which, again, puts consumers at risk. Really, we want to put a stop to their ability to basically muscle in and pressure municipalities to pass anti-vaping, anti-tobacco harm reduction legislation. And they're pretty efficient at this. If you go to Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids website, you can see the hundreds of local governments that have adopted anti-vaping, anti-THR policies. And really, what you want in terms of health policy is some sort of uniformity. We were talking before we came on, and, when people think about preemption, as you were sort of teeing up there, they think about, the state government taking away the ability of municipalities to meet the demands and needs of their, the local population. Well, for health policy, that's not something that's necessarily dependent on,
what county you're in,
or where you live. I mean, other things like structural racism and structural violence and all of that stuff.
Sure.
Your zip code should not ideally matter in terms of health policy. Everybody deserves to have the same kind of health coverage, and ideally health policies are uniform at the federal level.
Right.
But in what we're dealing with right now, we want to at least get some state level preemptions so that we don't have to keep putting out fires in towns and cities across your state.
Yeah. Because
It's
it's a lot harder to deal with too. I mean,
yeah,
just across the
it's a
board.
lot harder to deal with, and again, it creates that patchwork of regulation. So
Yeah.
people will just go to the next county and get what they want, and or there's always that criminal element that's going to step in and take advantage of a vacuum, and so that all of the arguments against prohibition come into play here.
Sure.
But what we want to see are states setting reasonable policies and
Yeah.
telling
Evidence-based policies would be great.
evidence-based, consumer-driven
Yeah.
policies and health, appropriate for the protection of public health, that counties and cities aren't going to go above and beyond and start creating new issues of public health, like an underground illicit market where people can buy pretty much whatever they want
Sure.
with no
Yeah.
assurances of quality.
Yeah, thank you, by the way, for that whole rundown. Just because, I think that topic gets kind of, I don't think muddied is the right word here, but I don't want people to think that CASAA is just always in favor of preemption for every topic that exists ever. We're
Right.
here to do this, we're here for nicotine policy and tobacco harm reduction and protecting these, your rights to these products. That's what we're here to do. And for that purpose, um, these kind of laws are something that we're in support of. Alex and I were talking about like environmental laws. That's a situation where preemption is probably not a great thing. Like the environmental needs of folks in New York are not the same environmental needs of folks in Texas or something like that, where you want those more localized and state kind of governments. You want that smaller government really involved there because they can address those needs for that area. But when we're talking health policy and specifically here, tobacco and nicotine policy, we are in favor of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and the other thing, I think Addie Tooney is pointing this out. I'm maybe jumping ahead here, but one of the arguments that I've made in some of the stuff that we've written in the testimony we've submitted, especially at the local level, is that states are going to have better access to more experts, more information, and they're going to be able to be more diligent about making a decision on something like this. Whereas at the county level, the people on your city council, in a lot of places, this is a part-time gig for them. They're running a hardware store or a landscaping company, or they're doing something. They have another job, and they are not a subject matter expert on all of this, nor are they going to have the best access to subject matter experts. And so a lot of time they're just sort of going to be subject to the talking points of the campaigns that are pushing these policies without a balanced view of what's going on.
And I don't want to necessarily say like areas like that are easy pickings, but they kind of are. It's a lot easier for folks from anti-campaigns and stuff to influence policymakers in those areas, and it's just better for this to be at a broader state level.
Yeah, I mean it's another side of the coin of these are people who are from the community, in the community, they're on the city council, and if they're portrayed as supporting big tobacco, well they've got to go run their store after the city council meeting. They've got to go meet with clients or whatever, and if they are branded as some sort of cigarette sympathizer because they've opposed a ban on flavored vaping, that's going to put a lot of pressure on them.
Yeah.
Whereas state lawmakers, in some states, they also have the thing where they're, I think West Virginia, a lot of state lawmakers, they have a full-time job outside of what they do in the legislature. But, for most cases, their primary job is dealing with policy. So, and they do have more tools at their disposal to be diligent about reviewing these things. See policies, it's at the federal level, but if we got to settle for statewide, it's a much better way to do it. And hopefully it allows for continued access to less harmful nicotine products.
Absolutely.
So I think we covered all of the bases, and this definitely went longer than I expected. I thought I was going to zip through this and be done in like half hour, 45 minutes, but here we are coming up on the end of the hour.
We are. And for folks curious how 2024 is going, we basically had a 45-minute legislative rundown, and it's January. Um, I don't mean to paint that as like doom and gloom, but this is going to be a year for folks to really,
I,
be on their
I,
toes
I,
and paying attention.
I will actually say something I thought about earlier today, and I definitely wanted to get this remark on is, when we're looking at this PMTA registry bills, there needs to be as much concern and
Yeah,
enthusiasm about opposing these things as we saw back in 2014 when FDA gave us the draft deeming regulations.
deeming
This is
regulations.
the
Yeah,
same. This should be the same level of panic. If you have one of these bills in your states, this is an existential threat to not just the industry, but people's access to these products.
yes,
And I don't want to see people buying products. It's shameful that people have to buy these things, under the table or in a parking lot, or have somebody deliver it to your house discreetly. All this under the radar cat and mouse nonsense is just not how these products need to be used by people. And so, but this is the world that 10 years ago, when we were trying to get people involved in writing comments to FDA, this is the same situation. It's just happening state by state right now. And so, tell your friends, tell your vape shops, be on the lookout for these bills. We're trying to cover as much as we can. We absolutely need your help in doing it. But yeah, this is a tobacco company promoted death
mess.
knell of the independent vapor industry.
Yeah,
Something like that. I know those words don't make sense, but you get the idea.
yeah. Look, you did great. Words are hard, man. So really quick, yeah, legislative rundown from hell already. If you happen to live in Rhode Island, Indiana, Washington, Virginia, Florida, Michigan, Vermont, um, and for pending calls to action that are on their way, and Alex is working on Colorado, South Carolina, South Dakota, Nebraska, Illinois, New Jersey, New York, Vermont, Virginia, Washington, just a whole slew that we've got there. So again, I didn't post links directly to any of these. They'll be in comments for the show and things like that. They're obviously always listed in our blog every week. And then I have been dropping the get involved state locator link to CASAA with the clicky map. You just, if you know the state, the shape of your state and where you are, you just click it right there, scroll down. The current calls to action that are live are going to be listed below. Please get involved. And like we talked about, calling, it's always a good time to call your policymakers. It doesn't have to be a sweat fest, intimidating, knees shaking type situation. You're either going to talk to a voicemail, or you're just going to talk to somebody who's going to say, okay, I'll pass your information along. So calling is great. Please call. Please fill out the calls to action. They literally only take a second. Alex and I, before the show, I said I was going to do like a call to action on the show and show people. I'm not going to do it. It's super simple. It's basic information, your name, where you live, stuff like that. And then we always take the time to write something out for you, but it is super important for you guys to include, and it doesn't have to be 9 paragraphs long, but your story at the beginning of that pre-written email section. It does. Alex and I had a discussion about spam folders and keeping these things out of spam folders. That applies, but the bigger picture here really is the importance and power of your story. It matters. It has a real impact. So please include. It, again, doesn't have to be. You don't have to write an autobiography here. Your name, what you do, how long you smoke for, what these products have done for you, what they mean to you and your health and your family and whatnot. Share your story. And if you haven't yet, a great time to share your story would be right then, too, over on CASAA.org on the testimonials page. Share your story there as well, because our collection, CASAA, all of us, we are all CASAA. That collection is growing, and it matters, and it is a testament. Testament? That's not a word. A testament, a monument. I don't know. It's a testament to all of this, to these products and what they've done for folks across the country. Okay, what do you say, man?
I will. Well, real quick, Apathy Miller. I saw that you said you've got an appointment to meet with Ashley Moody's office. Good job, excellent, and yeah, I wouldn't expect to talk directly to her or any lawmaker, but their staff. That's their job. They're there to listen, and just to dovetail on what Logan was saying about making phone calls. Just remember, the person you're talking to on the phone, it is their job to listen to you. Be nice, obviously. That should go without saying. Be courteous. I saw somebody get reprimanded in a committee hearing for being a little too loud and a little too aggressive. I understand their frustration, but definitely hold back on any name calling or accusations or anything like that.
Sure.
Especially when you get down, if you start going down those conspiracy theory rabbit holes, it does turn people off.
Yeah,
So
just make your call. Say,
yeah.
hey, my name is, or when I call, my name is Logan Evans. I'm 32 years old. I'm a father of two. I'm a landscaper. I smoke cigarettes for over a decade, and these are the products that have quite literally saved my life. And I am in opposition of this bill for that very reason. Thank
Yep.
you. Please pass my message along.
Yep.
That is, I mean, that's the phone call. Like that's what I do every time that I call these offices. It doesn't have to be this big drawn out song and dance. It doesn't have to be something to worry about. And I only address this because I know a lot of people have that anxiety of making the call. Doing an email is one thing, right? Like
I
doing
do.
a call to
I get
action.
nervous. So,
Yeah, yeah, but it's something that, if you practice that or you've had it written out, put it on a note card, type it up, do your little spiel, and say thank you and have a nice day. And that's really all it is. That's all it comes down to, and it can make the world of difference when, that secretary or that staff person or whatever hands over this list. Hey, I received, 50, 60, 70, 150 phone calls today, of very concerned constituents voicing their opinions in opposition to this bill. um, that can really set the tone and matter.
and you never know. There was something that happened in Montana. I think it was Montana or Wyoming years ago. One of the sparsely populated square states. And we had, I think, 16 people sign up in opposition to a bill. And one of the committee staff noted that it was the most opposition to any bill they had seen.
Yeah.
And so you never know. Committee by committee, it can be very different. It could be 5 people. That's all that's all it takes. But they may, in bigger, more densely populated places, we probably need dozens and hundreds of folks. But you never know how many it takes. It could just take one really compelling story. And I know for a fact some of our members have those very compelling stories. And so that is one of the most important things to share.
Really quick too, just on the topic of stories and calls to action. A good bit of advice in what I do for calls to action that I can do is I have my story typed up. So whether you type it up in like a Word document or the Notes app on your phone or something like that, so you don't have to do this every time, because again, you can do calls to action more than once. Please do them more than you can do them more than once. Just copy and paste. Make that easier on yourself. Why not make things that are this critically important just even that much easier? CASAA makes it as easy as we possibly can. Go that extra step and just make it super easy on yourself. Copy and paste your story in, fill it out, hit send, boom, share it. Don't forget to share it. When you get done, there's all sorts of buttons that you can click to share it all over the interwebs. Do that as well. Share it. And then if you happen to have a minute to donate or $1 to donate to CASAA, we can definitely put it to good use. Donate page is always up. It's going. It's there for everybody's monies. We'll use them. We promise we'll put them to good work. Or if you want to get something back for your monies, the merch page is pretty sweet too. You can be a walking billboard of tobacco harm reduction. Sweet designs courtesy of our president, Danielle Jones. Awesome stuff over there. Awesome stuff. I feel like I've already drifted into the ending spiel. Do you want me to just run right through it?
Yeah, this would be the time to do it.
Cool. Thank you, everybody, for showing up today. Great stream. Great stuff. Thank you, Alex, for going through that laundry list of calls to action and stuff going on all around the country right now. Like, I will drop one more time in chat the state locator page. So if you heard your state called, or you just want to see what's going on, if there's something going on right now in your state, head over to CASAA.org. Go to that link right there, state locator page under Get Involved. State and locally. It's all going to be right there. Put Logan's face on a t-shirt and I'll buy one. We can make it happen, Base Meat. We can make it happen. Only if you promise to buy one, though. But yes, thank you everybody here. Head over to CASAA.org. If you haven't already become a member, do it today. It's absolutely free. We're only going to email you when it matters. We're not going to fill your inbox with all sorts of junk and crap and stuff you don't need to know. We will email you with important things that you can get involved with. Check out our blog that Kristen works on every week. It's a great place to not only find calls to action, but other things that are going on out there. Science, good science, bad science, ugly science. We used to do the good, bad, and ugly thing here. So she's got all sorts of science that she puts up, commentary, articles that are going on. Kristen works on it every week for you guys. Check out the blog as well. If you are on Facebook, this is a weird one for me because I don't use Facebook, but I know a lot of you do. If you're on Facebook, we have state pages for every state and area, locality, whatever across America, including Puerto Rico and everywhere. So check out the state pages if you're there. And that's a great place too when we talk about like all the ways that we track bills and things that are moving. There's a lot of local small stuff across the country that we don't personally, through the systems we use, always have the ability to catch. But you guys might be able to catch those. But there's been a number of times where we've gotten a heads up from somebody on a state Facebook page, and we were able to put out something for it, a heads up, a call to action, some way for folks to spread that and get involved. So please join your state Facebook groups if you use Facebook. I highly encourage that you do it. What else we got? We'll be back in 2 weeks. I think I've pretty much gone over the spiel. I don't know. I haven't done it. I haven't done it in a year, Alex. It's been a whole year. I haven't done a spiel since 2023. So
Feels like
I don't know if I've missed anything, but I think I pretty much covered all the bases.
I think you nailed it.
This will be available in audio format across the board by the end of tomorrow for folks out there. Also, replay crew, huge shout out to you again. Share this far and wide. Share your calls to action far and wide. Share CASAA far and wide, you guys. Post it on Twitter, post it on Instagram, post it on Facebook, text it to random phone numbers. Just get it out there. That's it, everybody. I think we're done. Thank you one last time from us for being here, for being awesome, for being excellent. That's it. That's all I got, man.
Cool. Take care of each other.
All right. Yeah. Be excellent to each other, you guys. And just as importantly, be excellent to yourselves. We'll see you next time. We're out of here.